Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I am joined by John Allison for a game of Not a Tabloid. John is a comic book writer and artist. You know his work from Scary Go Round and Bad Machinery, Giant Days, and his new work that he's been publishing since 2022, Solver. I've been a huge fan of John's work for many years, and I'll be honest, this episode was a little bit of a dream come true. You can find more information about all of John's work at badmachinery.com or check the show notes for more information. We sat down to play Not a Tabloid, a two-player interview game where one player is an overworked tabloid writer and the other has a big secret they're trying not to spill too early. The game itself is incredibly funny, and John and I threw ourselves into the experience in a way that I think you're going to love. I had a blast making this episode. I think you're going to love listening to it. You can find more information about Not a Tabloid at sitehound.itch.io, or again, check the show notes for more information. Real quick before we dive in, a special thank you to Arcane Flame, our newest backer on Patreon. Our Patreon backers support, the podcast as well as everything else that I've got going on, and in exchange you get bonus episodes of Party of One plus side series like Party of None and Batman Bump in the Night. It's pretty great. You can find more information at patreon.com/JeffStormer. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am very excited. I'm sitting down today with John Allison. John, thanks so much for coming on Party of One.
I'm very pleased to be here, Jeff.
I am so stoked. I think this is going to be an absolute blast. But before we get into the game that we are playing, before we talk about all the fun that we're going to be having today, why don't you take a moment, let our lovely listeners at home know about what you've got going on you want them to know about.
Well, I got various things on the bubble. I've got a new book out November, may already be out. Great British Bump Off Kill or Be Quilt from Dark Horse Comics, collecting the 4-issue miniseries I did for them earlier in the year. I've got my regular webcomics at badmachinery.com running all the time as well, currently working on a series about the Beatles. So that's kind of my two things at the moment.
I love your work. I'm very excited about this. I'm really excited to I always get excited to hear about what's coming up and get to dig into things. This is great. I'm thrilled. So we are playing a very fun game today. Talk to me. We are playing Not a Tabloid. This is a game about normal interviews for completely legitimate newspapers. So here's the thing. You're one bad article away from getting fired, and maybe you missed this morning's pitch meeting when everyone's taking claims on stories. Your boss said you have one shot to impress him, and he's giving you the big enchilada of completely legitimate newspaper interviews to really make your comeback. And the problem is he kind of had a twinkle in his eye, and he didn't tell you what the interview is about. That's the premise. You're going to be interviewing someone, or we're both going to take turns interviewing someone. Depending on timing, if we can both play both roles, I think that's the magic, but we'll see where we get to. So I want to ask you, I pitched you a couple games. I sent you a few different options. What is it about this one that really jumped out at you? What are you excited about? What are you bringing to the table as we sit down to play?
Well, I have a degree in journalism studies that I've only very seldom used, but I'm a real believer in the dying art of the newspaper. I love paper publications. For someone who's worked almost exclusively in digital media, I realize this is sort of the great tragedy of my life. But so when I was given the opportunity to play a game that both tapped into my love of dying print media and also of improv, which I've dabbled in as well, I thought, this is perfect for me. You gave me a list of 4 games. I read the first one. I was like, none of the others are going to be able to beat this because he's got me so well, so easily. It was almost as if, you'd just been following me around the streets.
My goal whenever I pitch someone games is to capture that feeling, and to know that I did it well, and to know I did it well on the first try makes me feel like I've done my job well. I'm so excited. Anytime I get to do a 2-person improv-y space where one of us has a secret and the other tries to figure out what it is, there's a real magic to that. And I think flipping through the options for what the big secret could be and then trying to answer that through exclusively what I would describe as pretty softball interview questions. Incredible. The vibe is incredible.
I just hope I can live up to it, Jeff, because as I say, there's a lot of magic on this handout I've received for this, and I only hope I can live up to the potential within it.
I feel the same way, and I think that we're gonna knock it out of the park. So let me ask you, do you want to be the interviewer or the interviewee, or rather, do you want to start as the interviewer or interviewee?
Can I start as the interviewee? Because I'm what I would describe as a very slow learner, and you'll think that
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very stupid. You'll think I'm a very foolish person if I start asking the questions, because I'll be trying so hard to get it right. I won't be asking good questions. Whereas just making up like bullshit off the top of my head about a subject, that's my go-to area.
That sounds incredible.
That's a subconscious process that's running all the time. I can't really control it.
I listen, you and me both. I understand you are it is as though you are speaking into my soul. And so that sounds great. So what you're going to do to start things out, you are going to you have this list of big secrets. You are going to roll whether physical or digital an 8-sided dice 3 times, and you're going to bring together an action, a subject, and a motive to bring together what your big secret is. While you do that, I'm going to talk through like what I'm going to be doing to try and suss out what your big secret is. I've got 4 rounds of questions to figure out your secret. Each round is 2 questions. There are tables here of like what I said, like how I was describing softball interview questions, what gets you out of bed in the morning, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to randomly roll on 2 of these questions and then ask you one of my own, and I can't let it slip that I don't know why I'm here. We're going to go 4 rounds of questions, 3 questions around. After rounds 2, 3, and 4, I will make a guess at what the big secret is. And if I can't guess it by the end of round 4, I will walk myself down to unemployment.
Yep, sounds about right. Well, I've rolled.
Okay.
Baby. Yeah, I'm ready.
How are you feeling about your big secret?
It's I mean, I've got a lot of pressure on me now. A lot of pressure, because this is hot shit. That's all I can say, really.
I love it. I'm so excited. Well, anyway, but thank you so much for sitting down today. I'm really excited to, get into this and chat about the exciting stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I'm just glad to be here. Really, this is really boiling my butt. This particular matter, and I'm just really pleased. I'm flattered that you want to talk to me about it.
I really do. I want to, get into, what makes you tick and what's got your butt boiling. But I want to know, like, obviously, there's a lot of exciting stuff in the air, and as a standout figure in your field, I want to know, like, what are the qualities that are helping you to be successful?
I think really you look at me, look at what I'm wearing. I am absolutely the kind of person who would have got himself into where I find myself now. I'm that kind of guy. And I am a man. He, him. Those are my pronouns. You can see that by looking at me. I mean, I think you can see probably from the beard, to be honest with you, that that's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy I am. So I just found myself in this situation, and I looked at what was around me, the kind of people I knew, and just sort of got on with things, really.
For sure. No, I think meeting a moment where it's at. I think that's really ultimately what it's all about. I think you hear a lot of stories about the people that were great figures in history, and ultimately a lot of them, they would describe themselves as ordinary people that met a moment where it's at. And so I guess, like, as we're looking at this and talking about, the people that are around you and the moment that you're meeting, what do you see as the biggest issue facing the youth of today?
I think really it's just a lack of belief in, the wonder of existence. They're glued to their screens, but they're not taking a moment to consider, the primal forces that tie us to Mother Earth. I think if that makes any sense. So really it's up to me and, my colleagues to kind of foster that kind of thing.
For sure. Totally. I think I'm glad to see that, it's easy to talk about the issues that we have with the youth. It's easy to talk about the issues that we see in the world, but I think it's encouraging. And I think, like, our readers are going to be really excited to know that you and your colleagues are out there trying to impact that difference in the world. So I guess what I'm curious about and what I really like is, when we talk about, making that difference, we talk about meeting the moment where it's at, and we talk about, like, embracing those primal forces. Like, I would love to hear a success story that you've had in sort of imparting that wisdom, imparting that change, and making that difference in the lives of one of the young people that you've interacted with.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, me and my colleagues in the organization, we've kind of trained up kind of a new generation, if you like, of people like us. And it's very easy. Often it's as much as just putting a cape on a kid. You just put a cape on them, maybe, and they all of a sudden they think to themselves, yeah, maybe I could be a part of this. Obviously we all wear capes. We're very much a caped organization, but at the same time, it's an expensive organization to be in, and believe me, nobody understands that better than me. So, yeah, like that, I can certainly think of children. I say we've dressed them up in kind of, you might say, regalia, and they've just absolutely taken to it. They feel like they're part of something that's been going on for a really long time.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I think like you can probably see that impact in their eyes. So that's 3 questions. That's gonna wrap up round 1. Fuck. Okay, great. The energy is here. Oh man. I've resorted to like I've got a notepad in front of me and I'm taking like proper journalism notes here, like just like shorthanding things and being like, I'm looking at a lot of details. I don't know that any of them make sense together, but
well, Jeff, I thought I'd given you too much already. To be honest with you, I thought I was being very generous.
I think I've got a lead. I've got a lead, and we'll see how round 2 takes shape. I've got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Let's maybe get into the deeper. Let's maybe get into the deeper topics and deeper conversation, because I think that what you're doing is really fascinating, and I'm curious. Like, have you thought about the ethical considerations of your work?
Well, me and everyone really in the group, understands that there's a great deal of responsibility, and that's why we have a hierarchy. I mean, that ultimately is the I'm very much involved. I've done certain things that need me to lean on that hierarchy, really, to go right to the top. So ethics. Yeah, sure. We're working hard as an organization at all times to make sure that everybody knows that what they're doing is if not morally right in a sort of, in the sense of, well, let's just say the normies, definitely works within the sense of my sort of, I could call it a brotherhood, I suppose. But I mean, it's really multi-generational, really going back into the dawn of time.
That's fascinating. And what a treasure to get to honor that like legacy, right? What a treasure to get to like, the dawn of time. Like there's responsibilities there. And I guess I'm curious, what role does the media play in this for you, right? Like there's a lot of preconceptions around your work. I think there's a lot of ideas of what might bring someone to this, and I'm curious, like, were there sources of media, or what role does the media play in like bringing you to the organization?
Jeff, we're very secretive. We're secretive by nature. Obviously we've been involved at various times with various other organizations at certain sort of times. We've kind of hung out with like royal courts and that sort of thing. But for the most part, we've got to keep it on the down low, because this is not something we want everybody getting their hands on. You've kind of got to be brought into the circle, if you will. And like I say, it's not an easy profession to get into. It's expensive. Like I say, you're always thinking about what certain things cost. I know I am, but that's it. Yeah, the media, no, we shut them right out. We've got the big man at the top. I can always look to him. Me, I'm kind of in the middle of the thing, but no, the media, no, Jeff, no, we don't talk to them.
I'm curious, like in terms of what brought you into the organization, you've mentioned the big man at the top. Was this I guess what I would ask is, I want to know, like, it's cliche to ask, how did you get into this, right? I think that's the easier question, but I'm curious, like, was there a conversation within the organization? Like, who was the person that you looked to and you said, I can be them, I can do what they're doing? And like, what was the moment that sort of like opened your eyes to the possibilities of what it is that you do?
Well, it was really a contractual thing as much as anything else. I had certain struggles. I went to the Brotherhood. I said, get me in there, effectively. And they said, well, all right, if you're willing to put in the work. Like I said, it's not easy. I had to talk to the hierarchy, so to speak, but I was in. That's the only way I can put it, really. Yeah, like it was kind of necessary, that I just had to kind of sign on the dotted line.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I feel like I maybe have it. I think I've got to get an action, a motive, and did you join a wizard council to get revenge on someone?
Oh, you're close, but you're not right.
Okay.
Let's just say that you're sniffing around.
Okay, great.
But you're not 100% there.
Okay, great. That means I get to ask more questions, but I'm getting there. All right. Question number 1. What surprised you the most about your work?
Oh God, really just the sense that there was no getting out of it once you were in. It's a little bit like once I thought I was out, but they pulled me back in. Well, this is a more powerful force, shall we say, than the New Jersey refuse collection fraternity. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
If that makes any sense. Yeah, like it's pretty. Just sort of kind of. I'm in now, and I can't really get out.
Fascinating. I'm curious. Like, you're in it, and it sounds like you're not leaving anytime soon. I'm curious, like, not to lean on, not to maybe pull on this thread, but like, talk to me about the worst thing that's happened to you since the incident.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, things have got better. It was a lot worse before I got in. Obviously, I've got worries, but kind of being part of this with, I say I can always look to the top of the organization and know that someone's got my back. So things have actually improved quite a lot while I've been part of this order, shall we say, this fraternity.
Great. I'm so glad. I'm glad to hear that. I know that it can be difficult, especially when you feel trapped, I guess I would say. But like, I guess my question is, to get into I want to get into your headspace, right? Because you found yourself in this very interesting position. You have made some decisions, and you have really set your life on a path. And I think that we're seeing the way that is impacting new generations and carrying on the legacy of this organization. I'm curious, like, what was the moment? You've talked about like looking to the head of the organization. You've talked about signing the deal. You've talked about recognizing that there was no turning back. What was the moment that made you feel like this was the step to take? Like, do you remember the conversation that you had with yourself that made you go, I'm going to take this step? Because I think oftentimes that first step that we take towards a life-changing decision like the one that you've taken is really the thing. And so talk to me about that. Talk to me about what was in your head when you made that deal and you signed your name on the dotted line.
Well, Jeff, you're familiar, I assume, with the OTB, the off-track betting.
Of course.
And you've been in there, you've had a tough day, the ponies haven't done what you wanted them to, and you're there ripping up your little paper stub. Well, I have to say I'm no stranger to that situation either. And I walked out, and all of a sudden, I thought about my dear wife and 8 children at home. And I just thought, you know what? I've got to make some changes in my life, some really, what's the word I'm looking for here? Formative changes, because otherwise my situation is pretty much, reached a nadir. So yeah, so the OTB really, I'd say a bad day at the OTB, and I was, I had to make a decision, and I made that decision.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, that totally makes it. I'm so glad here's Here's the thing. The two random questions are great, but the one question that you get to choose, I understand how clutch it is now because I needed that question to get me to the full answer. With our action and subject and motive, I believe what has happened is that I'm looking at this table here. I believe you have signed a magically binding bargain with the president of the Wizard Council because you were in debt. Is that correct?
Well, of course. Why else would you be here, Jeff, if that was not to talk to me about that? Because I believe it's a very unique situation.
Of course. No, it is. And I'm really glad that we had this conversation. I think this is great. I'm really appreciating, I think that this is a really great look at the way that capitalism makes us, makes desperate decisions. And also, I think that this is really going to, between you and me, I think this is going to blow the door off of some of the recruiting practices of the Wizard Council. Like, you needed a kind of support for what you were doing. You needed a sort of support. And to trap you in a contract with the Wizard Council, I mean, that's an eternity's worth of obligations. And to kind of trap you in that position, like, I think that, call me a muckraker, call me a progressive journalist, but I think that this is an opportunity to expose maybe unethical recruiting practices within the wizard community. You should be pursuing wizardry because you want to pursue it, not because you need to clear your OTB beds.
Let's just say that if I was the only person who's part of the Wizard Council who has a clean balance sheet, this would be a very lonely place.
I'm glad to know this, and when I tell you that you can count on me to knock on some doors and that we're going to take this story and we're going to blow it wide open, we're taking this fight all the way to the top.
Thanks, Jeff. I feel a great weight is lifted from my shoulders. Really appreciate this. Appreciate the opportunity more than anything else.
Of course. I mean, really, thank you for taking the time. We'll follow up via email if we have any further questions. You'll get your standard, release things to confirm if we want to name you as a source. We'll follow up with all the usual things down the road. But for now, I'll let you go and I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day.
Great. I've got to go and get some entrails out and do a bit of soothsaying. So, got to rise up that chain.
Hell yeah. We did it. I got it. I'm so happy. I feel so good. I was looking at this list. That last question, I was looking at this list and I was like, okay, I definitely have signed a contract. I've got Wizard Council. And I was like, I just need to figure out a way to get towards motive, and then I got it locked in.
It's very difficult. It's a great game. It's a great game because you're trying to seed things, but you're trying not to seed them too hard, So you've got to find ways to state it gently and allude. It's a lot of illusion, which is quite enjoyable because it's like writing stories, really. You don't want to you don't want to give all the treats away too soon, but at the same time, you don't want to be just, you can't do a big switcheroo where it's like, oh, here are all the facts on like
I think that the
ultimate page.
The pacing that you walked it through was really something to watch because like I was immediately at points I've written down theories around like this is some sort of a superhero team or at first I thought that maybe you were leading a cult about the Minotaur because you had mentioned like the beard and primal urges and I was like that's all Minotaur shit, sure. And like as it slowly took shape I was like oh no, this is a Wizard Council, and then that final question I was like oh, that's the funniest possible reason to get roped into a Wizard Council.
It was quite hard to because it's quite hard to tie some of these things together. You're like, you start thinking like a wizard, and then you're like, why is a wizard in debt? He can just magic up money. He has to have got himself into a lot of trouble beforehand. And obviously,
really great.
The gutter is always littered with betting stubs and lottery tickets. I started to see them dancing in front of my eyes.
That's where magic happens. Do you want to swap places and take a turn as the interviewer?
I'll give it the old college try, Jeff, but I have to say, I don't think I'm going to do as well as you. I mean, for all my training, I think... That's
okay. We'll see how we go. Kick us off.
Well, I'm delighted to meet you, first of all. How do you say your name again? Sorry, I don't... I'm always embarrassed about mispronouncing.
Oh, it's Jeff. It's Jeff, Jeff.
Jeff, right. Yeah, the standard pronunciation of Jeff. Well, I say it's wonderful. Thank you for bringing me here. So, really, well, shall I just kick off? Shall we just dive straight in? Okay.
I am an open book. Ask me. Nothing's off the table.
Well, it's lovely to speak to someone like that because a lot of interviews these days are so kind of bolted down.
Oh,
Right.
sure. You get NDAs, I've worked in PR. I understand how there's always something you're not allowed to talk about, but
It's just lovely not to have the PR in the room, to be honest with you, for a change.
You completely understand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess first thing, the simple question, what's your favorite aspect of your work?
Oh, favorite aspect of the work. It is a job first and foremost. I'll say that. I think it is, I think a lot of people, that's maybe a controversial stance, but I think we need to acknowledge it as a job if we're going to, really advocate for justice within it. But I think it is the satisfaction of, knowing that I have imparted something positive. When I look into his eyes and I know that there is an understanding and a love and it's not always easy, right? But like when you look into their eyes and you see the impact and you can see that like a lesson that you have taught is imparted, I think there's a magic in that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that warms my heart to hear it because I genuinely did not know what you were going to say. So, put simply, do you have any advice for those trying to follow in your footsteps? I mean, it's really, the floor is yours at this point.
Sure. Communication is going to be challenging first and foremost, right? Like, understand your own needs because you're going to need to understand them very well to be able to communicate them and signal them. I think being able to overcome that challenge, I think is going to be a big piece of it. I would also say, patience is a big thing. And also maybe a willingness to say yes to the adventure, right? Certainly I think there were moments where I maybe thrashed about, and certainly there were moments where I said why me? Why am I here? But at the end of the day, you've got a job to do. There's no getting out of it. And you've kind of got to say okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to make the impact that I'm going to make. And, it's really about doing the best with what you've been given because, it's the old adage about life and lemons,
This is magical to hear this. It really is. It's exactly what I expected to hear from you, to be honest with you. So I guess my next question, you talk about there being a job to do. You talk about, there is an aspect of adventure to it.
It was certainly an adventure unlike anything I've ever experienced before.
But was it a dangerous adventure? Did you feel that your life was in peril at any point?
Oh, for sure. I don't think it's possible to not feel that way. I mean, I think look, when you're in that moment and you're thinking this is going to happen and I don't want, and look, I'm going to be so for real and I'm being a little vulnerable here. Are you a little thrilled by it? Sure. It's scary. It's a little thrilling and you're like, hey, this is going to happen. And, you say yes to the adventure and you look in the stars and you say, this is where I'm supposed to be and this is what I'm going to do. And, and what was really incredible was there's a danger to it, you're like, oh my God, am I going to be okay? It's danger. It's primal. It's vicious, but then you get into it and it's tender and it's loving and it's beautiful. And then, the end result of it is a circumstance that's going to change the rest of your life. And it's, and so, yeah, there's a danger to it. And honestly, I'm not going to say that the danger wasn't part of the fun, but but I think it was worth it in the end.
This is trans. Do you know, this is an uplifting story, most of all.
I think it is,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to say, this is not the interview I expected to have with you, but it's turned out to be really more than, because it's so positive. You're so positive about everything. It's really nice.
I mean, look, Was it how I expected life to shake out? Absolutely not. Would I change it now that it's been done? Not even in an instant.
Sure. All right. Well, we'll take a brief breather, and I'll get back to you for the next questions.
Great. I've really got to step away for just a second. This will be great.
Okay.
Prep your questions and okay, great. This is fun. I feel like seeing it on the other side of the table is great.
This is nightmarish. It's absolutely nightmarish. You're so upbeat about it, and there's literally nothing to be upbeat about on the Big Secret table. You know, like you're enjoying this so much, and I just don't know how to parse this into anything this interview could possibly be about. I mean, anyways, I'm having flashbacks to interviews I did where I'd have to fill in for someone when I was like a student journalist, and they'd be like, someone would have a hangover or be unwell. Like, oh, can you just? I did music interviews, and I'd have to go back. And they'd be like, oh, can you just interview? It'd be like a Britpop band like Echo Belly or something. Like, can you just interview Echo Belly? Because I can't do it now because I've got to do something else. And you'd be like, what? And you'd have half an hour. I'd know nothing about the band. And I'd be there with the 1997 internet trying to write 10 questions in 30 minutes about a band I'd really only ever heard the singles of on the radio. And then you'd enter the sort of the theatre of humiliation where they realised that you knew nothing and you were a bad student journalist, almost every student journalist they had to speak to.
That's
so I tell you what, so I think we're just going to have to crash back in. I say I'm going to have to work with this trauma and just yeah. So let me
live in it, experience it, let it wash over you.
Okay, let's roll up and see. All right, well. That was a good break, and I kind of needed it. But let's get straight back into it.
Of course. Thank you for your patience and flexibility. I mean, you know how these things are. Sometimes you gotta deal with things.
Absolutely, when you're a busy person. So first up, we've talked about the excitement of everything. Let's kind of like step sideways for a second and talk about how modern technology has changed things for you.
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I think obviously, I think that for me, the biggest thing was, I had a lot more information at my fingertips when I was presented with this than I think maybe generations past would have, right? And, on the one hand, it's really nice to have all of this availability and to be able to answer these questions and to be able to, pursue not just maybe what science has to offer, but maybe what older forms of wisdom had to offer. And, to be faced with this conundrum and to be able to say what are my options? What does await for me and how to connect with maybe other people who had been in other similar situations,
Sure.
But I think what's really fascinating is the more you dig into that, the more the sort of universal constant sort of emerges that it's how it is. And, coming to understand that, and, having communications with people that have been in similar positions and being able to sort of talk through and say, yes, okay, I understand what's being put in front of me, and I understand the importance of it, and I am going to embrace that, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, I mean, that pretty much sits with what I thought you'd say, but I mean, it's really lovely to hear you put it like that. So, you've talked about using modern technology, using the ways of the past as well. It's all part of the big soup of everything.
Yeah, soup is a great way to put it,
Sure. Thank you. But were you self-taught or were you trained?
Oh, God. I mean, I don't think that there's a training I don't think that it's possible to really I would have loved to take a course on this. And, certainly I'd say there are plenty of courses for, I'd say, the easy parts, right? There's plenty of courses around, the obvious stuff, right? I can take a class on how to burp, but the bigger questions of how to interpret the signs, are the omens telling me something? And also the communication piece of it, because, I would love to have a class, because when you find yourself standing in the woods, you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't know how we're going to communicate. And you're just sort of like trying to piece all of this together. And so, like, yeah, I would have loved if there was somebody to sit there and be like, open your third eye. It has the ability to look into you and you can find a way to communicate without words. Like, all of those things would have been great. I had to learn those things on my own. And that, maybe throws things off a little bit. But also at the same time, like, would I have loved for someone to explain that to me? Sure. Is there a magic when you realize that you can open your third eye and share this communication and speak with one another? And, when you can have this moment of communication, there's a beauty to that. And suddenly, like, the woods feel like the homiest place in the world when you have that moment. And it I'll say it changes things. And so, yeah, I would have loved to have somebody there to teach me or to explain these things to me. But at the end of the day, you learn, and maybe learning was part of the great journey of this whole thing. The soup, as you put it.
The soup, that's nice. So do you think during the course of this experience, you saw something that not many other people have seen?
Wow. Sorry, I didn't think I was going to cry at this. Yeah, I did. I think a lot of people have an idea, right? And it's like, look, I think, I'm not going to be the first person to talk about the difficulty of loving someone that is in the public eye, right? But I'm going to say, like, I think that there's a perception of who they are and, what they do and how they live that I think is it's easy to come up with a story and to look at how he lives and to say, yeah, I get it. I know who that is. But like, yeah, I think I have seen something that no one else has seen. I think I've seen like a tenderness. I think I've seen a love. I think I've seen a protector. I think I've seen someone that will stop what he's doing, and will drop everything to care for us and to care for the family. And so, like, to me, that's what I have seen. Like, I think there's a lot of people would say that they know what it's like, and the truth is, like, you have an idea. And sorry, I'm getting on a soapbox, but like, you have an idea because you've read a blog or you've read a newspaper. Like, you have an idea, but like, to be there and to be held and to be seen and to be loved, like, you have no idea. That's what I've seen.
Jeff, this is no, you say you didn't think you were going to cry. I didn't think I was going to cry. This is really, really special.
Thank you.
I just don't know how to put this. I mean, if I might speculate for a moment.
Please speculate.
Have you, would you say that you've ever eaten a Bigfoot?
Okay. Well, rude, I would say. I mean, I didn't know what kind of tabloid we're doing here, but
I mean in the culinary sense. I'm talking bushmeat kind of thing.
Okay. Oh God, no.
Right. Okay. So I'll rule that out then. And we'll just it's fine. No, I'm really sorry. I feel like I've got you back up.
It's fine. I mean, I could never, I could never. I mean, I could never do that to Bigfoot. I'm
that's
not
okay.
Gonna say, I'm not gonna say, fine. But I'll say I could never eat the flesh of Bigfoot.
That's fine. No, absolutely. I'm really sorry. Minor misunderstanding, you understand. What we'll do is we'll go back for round 3, Jeff, and we'll just We'll talk across this issue. You can speak to your feelings a little bit more, and we can hopefully, draw things to a conclusion.
Love that.
Okay, so let's roll up. What's your core belief system?
I'll tell you, it's been thrown into disarray in the last few years. If you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said, we have ourselves, each other, and our decisions. But I mean, now I don't know. Now it's the stars. Now it's I now it's been thrown into disarray a little bit. Like, I guess I'd say like it's the stars, it's destiny. It is it is the crow that appears on your window and taps 3 times
Mm-hmm.
perfectly spaced in between. It is and I say all of that, but also it's love. It's love. At the end of the day, it's knowing that there is someone out there that you are meant to be with, and knowing that love is out there to such a profound degree that it can yeah, it's love.
Wonderful. Right. Well, I mean, again, this has been. I think you've really kind of you've talked very personally here. I get the sense that this is something that you weren't quite ready to even admit to yourself how important it was to you. But let's just divert a little bit. What surprised you most about your work?
I mean, I found that I was stronger than I thought. I found that I was I like I would have expected, like, I saw it in the movies, right? Like, I knew I saw it in the movies, right? Like, I've seen Alien. I figured I had a pretty good handle on. I didn't think I was making it out, right? When it
Of
happened, I
course.
didn't think I was walking away, but like, but medical science being where it's at, like they treated me well. They put me back together, and and I've been able to enjoy, the greatest gift that this crazy love story could possibly give me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, really, I mean, my only question really for you is that you talk about the crow that taps on your window. Do
Yeah.
you do you believe then in that animals can communicate something to us from like more than just a squawk or a growl or a purr?
I have to, I mean, like, I like I said, I did a lot of research. I was certain that I was misreading the signs, but I mean, and certainly I think the moment that we shared, the moment that he and I shared when I opened my third eye, I think that I realized that we're a lot more connected than we think. And I realized that, maybe animals see things that we don't, and maybe they know things that we can't. And so, like, I think that when that crow tapped 3 times and I had this moment of silently staring in the eyes of this crow, I think that maybe, I talked earlier about wishing that there had been someone to explain things, but the truth is, maybe it was that crow. Maybe that crow was there to say, you're about to embark on a journey and your life is about to change, and you're about to have some things discovered and learn some things that you're going to have to be ready for. And maybe what I believe is that we have the ability to know nature, and nature has an ability to know us in a way that we have to, like, accept. And it was through that understanding that I met the love of my life, and I and everything magical that has come from that has sort of come from understanding that, like, animals have an insight and a wisdom that I think is really beyond us.
That's beautiful. I think, Jeff, I think you've told me. I think you've told me everything you need to say. Really, I think I've got almost everything I need. I mean, I'll tell you what. I'll just clear this up. So, you know, you have had a child with Bigfoot because you were told to by a speaking animal, right?
I can see why you would think that, but I think it's bigger than that. I think,
Okay.
and I mean, like, did I have a child with Bigfoot? Yes. Was it what I expected to happen? No. But, like, did I realize that was told by a speaking animal is an entry on this list that I accidentally backed into? Sure. um, but I think it's bigger than that. At the same time, I think there's a greater magic in the air. There's a greater force in the air, and I think that within 3 questions we could probably get to that.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I tell you what. I've just got 3 quick ones
Sure,
to
hit me.
round things up for you. Sure. So, really, one, Jeff, were you always a guy who believed in portents and signs?
I really wasn't. When I started this journey, like when I had this moment with this crow, I thought, well, that's just a weird circumstance, right? And I start Googling,
Yeah.
I start, investigating, and suddenly I'm like, oh, wow, maybe these portents are out here.
So, and you've been affected by these portents, I assume.
I mean, I think that I think that my life has really been steered by these portents, and it's what brought me. It's what brought me to that cave in the woods, and it's what brought me to that bed made of straw, and it's what brought me to the greatest night of my life, and what brought me to the worst pain that I've ever experienced, and what's brought me to my family.
So when you were lying there delivering, the hairy progeny of one of the most famous cryptids of all time, it was because of a prophecy.
It's sure, yeah. I had a meeting with a crow. It tapped on my windshield, and I looked out, and I looked up in the sky, and for a moment, I saw the future laid out in front of me, and the stars in the daytime seemed to arrange and seemed to give me coordinates, and they steered me towards the woods, and it was there that I had hot, nasty sex with Bigfoot, and then, a few weeks later, a Bigfoot burst out of my chest like an alien. Yeah.
I assumed you'd use the phrase "made love" to Bigfoot, but do you know what? It all works, and I'm sure the style guide has answers. So if
you need to edit that for content purposes, like, but all of which is to say, like, did I eat Bigfoot? Kinda.
Well, do you know what? There's not enough love in this world, and I'm happy to say any additions to the big old pile of love, the big hairy pile of love, it's fine by me and our readers.
It's the soup. It's the soup.
That's some pretty thick soup. That's some hot consommé.
This game fucking rips.
Oh dear.
I looked at those options. I looked at those three choices. And I was like, it's so funny to approach this interview as though I'm being interviewed for like a parenting blog, and it's like, my kid is Bigfoot. And be like, yep, no, I'm a parent. My child is a Bigfoot.
It took on a real sort of epic sweep, though. The love and the prophecy. It got very big, very fast, Jeff.
It did.
Which apparently with Bigfoot, that's kind of his lovemaking style.
Apparently. Well, because like you asked me, what was the question that you asked me early? Like you were like, was there a date? You said like, did you see danger? And I was like, okay, well that's gonna color a lot of this immediately, because like the easy way to do that is to direct it towards like, yes, it was that I saw Bigfoot, but the much funnier answer is to say like, yeah, we fucked. Like that's the much funnier answer.
Oh dear. Oh god. Yeah, that was great.
Oh, this was a joy. Thank you so much for playing this with me. This was magnificent.
Oh, it's a great game. Yeah, I think I shall definitely want to play this with other people. It's so much fun. Fun.
So easy to jump in and pick up and start messing around. And let me ask you this: what was your favorite moment from play? What was the biggest delight of the day?
It's just enjoying the other person playing. It's really funny. Like, it's like, obviously I enjoyed, when I was trying to come up with the answers, I was thinking all the time. So like, but when you're asking the questions, you get to enjoy a performance as well as desperately trying to solve the thing. And the pacing of the game, or at least at the speed my brain works, means that I could kind of enjoy your show while desperately trying to kind of work, what is it? What's happening? What's going on? And kind of, it's like a reading comprehension in real time, which was very enjoyable. It was
and I
great,
think like the thing to me that really like leapt out, and I think the joy that I was really experiencing, like from the interviewee's perspective, and I think the way that the round breakdown, to your point, like really like brings this to the forefront and really delighted me, was getting to kind of sit down, like when you asked me like, did you eat Bigfoot, and then kind of like having this moment in the back of my brain, like, okay, how do I work backwards? Okay, so he's got Bigfoot. How do I work backwards into the other clues? How do I bring those to the forefront? Because like hypothetically, I want you to get to 4 rounds and not get it. But at the same time, like part of the fun is that I want you to get it right. And so
you drip feed it out, and there's pleasure in kind of issuing, kind of almost like handicapping yourself, and kind of, I'm going to let a little bit more out here and a little bit more out here, because the fun is in the revelation. It's like it's multi-layered. Like when I was with my questions with the wizards, because it was a magical pact with the president of the Wizard Council. It was I had to then kind of go quite granular and kind of separate out these two very closely related things to make sure that there was a sense of both the magical pact and the wizards being separate from each other, if that makes any sense. So that was quite a mental juggling act to do on the fly, while obviously kind of trying to be amusing at the same time. So it was great fun, real challenge.
Oh, it was real blast. Really getting to like sit down and getting to like when you know that you've got one of the three answers, both from the interviewer's perspective and going like, okay, I've got this. It's time to zero in on the other two questions, and also getting to kind of go like, okay, they've got one of the answers. Let me lean harder on the child or thing, or lean harder on the prophecy to try and like get you to like just a real that guided process, really satisfying.
Yeah, it's like you've popped off one tight shoe, and then all of a sudden you've got a certain amount of relief. Now I can focus on my left foot with the tight shoe's still on. Yeah, it's great, really great game.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for playing this with me. This was an absolute joy. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
So my website is badmachinery.com, where you get like free webcomics all the time, like 3 days a week, if not more, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Also, I have a Patreon where you can get them in. When I do a new story, I put the whole thing up on day one on Patreon. So that's patreon.com/scary go round. And then also I'm on Blue Sky. I mean, social media is a wilting tree, but I am on Blue Sky and as badmachinery.com, and on Instagram as @badmachinery. So all those work, but there's always things coming out. You can Google me still. Well, Google still works. Before Gemini answers every question wrong.
Yeah, right.
Look up John Allison.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Thank you.
Well, this was magnificent. Thank you so much. I am absolutely overjoyed. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me, and thanks again to John for coming on the show. That game was magical. It was so funny, and it was really great. Be sure to head to badmachinery.com to check out all of John's comics, and be sure to head to psychound.itch.io to pick up your own copy of Not a Tabloid. And you can follow John on social at badmachinery.com. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and social medias at Party of One Podcast. You can find us on Patreon at Jeff Stormer, where you can get bonus episodes of the show, side series like Party of None and Batman Bump in the Night, and more. Now, one thing I would like for you to do if you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to tag us on social and tell us your favorite part of the show, whether it's the games that we play, the guests that we bring on. Having people shout out the show in public doesn't just make me feel good, but also it makes me feel great. It lets new people see the show and discover the show and check out the show, which is the easiest and most straightforward way to help the podcast grow. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I'm mistaken, I think that's all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.